be the king.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Do or do not. There is no try.
First off, I want to say I want to appreciate everyone who supported my review of The Suicide Squad. It's nice to see that there's still people who can think for themselves and even have a conversation about film. Because everywhere I looked, everything from YouTube to the media to Rotten Tomatoes, we're pushing for this film so hard, shilling to be honest. Telling people that James Gunn gets it, saying that he saved DC, saying how much fun the movie was. And we already know that fun is just code for no substance in 2021.
No shit.
And where did all this questionable praise get us? Where did James Gunn get us? The Suicide Squad took in just $26.5 million at the domestic box office, with a $72 million global haul. Industry analysts are predicting that it will come nowhere near the box office numbers that the original Suicide Squad movie had. Now, of course, people are going to blame the pandemic. The media was already trying to spin things just days after its release, saying it's the biggest R-rated release in the pandemic era, as if that actually means anything. And was that a slight factor? Probably, but let's put things in perspective here.
And here we go.
Even with Black Widow's box office failures, it still made $80 million in its opening weekend, and then it tanked after that, and that's with a Disney Plus simultaneous release. So where's the first week numbers for the Suicide Squad? I thought that James Gunn was a sure thing, a genius. People were comparing him to Quentin Tarantino. I got news for you, it's all smoke and mirrors. The media and YouTube wanted so hard for James Gunn, a try-hard Marvel director, because that's what he is, to be DC's savior, so they could begin to paint the narrative that this is what everyone wants.
Because it's all part of the plan.
Rotten Tomatoes reviews tried to tell everyone how this is a must-see, but we all know that Rotten Tomatoes means jack shit in the grand scheme of things, especially as it pertains to movie criticism, which is what the site was built for. There was even evidence of people being forced to change their negative reviews of this movie so to not lower the Rotten Tomatoes score. Does this sound like a source you can trust?
You can't handle the truth!
Some are blaming the $185 million budget, saying it's ridiculous to spend that amount on an R-rated movie. An R rating has already been proven time and time again to have no effect on the box office. If a movie is actually great and not just being portrayed as being great, then word of mouth will carry it to bigger numbers.
That makes sense.
Look at Joker. Amazing movie. Granted, it had a lower budget, but it still made a shit ton of money with a hard R rating. And if you want to blame the HBO Max simultaneous release, then I'll say again, why do some movies have great first week numbers with the same release strategy? And here's an idea. If the simultaneous release is such a problem, then stop fucking doing it.
Police, get what you fucking deserve!
All these things are being blamed, but do you want to know the real reason that the Suicide Squad is failing at the box office? It's because the movie just simply isn't that good. This is a Hollywood problem, more specifically a WB problem, and even more specifically a James Gunn problem. The reality is that this movie had nothing new to offer, and you could tell that just from watching the trailers. Hell, most people didn't even know if this was a sequel, a reboot, or a remake, and I'm still not sure, to be honest.
I'm having trouble.
Maybe part of the problem is that WB has no concrete plan and they're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. They've already divided the DC fan base based on how they treated Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill. They even tried to build a narrative that the initial poor audience scores were a result of Snyder fans review bombing this movie. For those that don't know, review bombing is just their way of explaining away people's honest opinions. And even when James Gunn was asked about the possibility of people review bombing his movie, he actually bought into the idea. So what's that tell you about him? He's feeding the narrative just like everyone else is.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
And this brings me to Mr. Gunn, because maybe he's not the sure thing that everyone thought he was. Maybe you just can't take your juvenile approach to filmmaking and just apply it to every single property you come in contact with. Maybe you should try to tell a good story instead of just filling your script with dick jokes and pointless characters. Maybe if you showed a little bit more respect to these characters, people would take your movie seriously. Also, I keep hearing the "it doesn't take itself too seriously" praise that this movie is getting, and I'm here to tell you, that's not always a good thing. Suicide Squad or not, You have to give people a reason to be invested in your movie. And sometimes it takes a little bit more than blood and guts and goofy characters to do that. I find it ironic that they give people like Zack Snyder shit saying that he doesn't understand the characters, but they give James Gunn a pass when he kills Starro with fucking rats. Or when he shoehorns some random sequence into the movie where some dictator wants to marry Harley, just to show that she's attracted to bad men. No shit, she dated the Joker. Was this your attempt at character development by telling us what we already knew? Not to mention this subplot is never brought up again, and Harley just goes back to being a shell of the crazy bitch that she should be.
But you one crazy ass bitch!
Bloodsport? Yeah, we'll just give him the same arc that Deadshot had in the first movie. Peacemaker's just gonna be our version of Deadpool, and he's gonna be our way of adding organic butthole jokes. This is the guy, James Gunn, who is saving DC? The guy that brought absolutely nothing to the property or the characters, and just filled an agonizing 2-hour and 13-minute runtime with a bunch of seemingly random scenes that don't form a cohesive or interesting story at all? If he's the savior, then DC's in bigger trouble than I thought.
That is one big pile of shit.
Maybe we should stop trying to treat DC like Marvel. Maybe stop trying to apply Marvel logic to DC properties. And instead be creative and try to be your own fucking thing. Just try focusing on storytelling rather than CGI spectacle and see if it makes a difference. Maybe, just maybe, people are starting to realize that we deserve better. And this is the first step in correcting that problem, and that's not supporting shitty movies when they're released. Bottom line, you just didn't give people a big enough reason to leave their house and go to the theater and watch this movie.
You lose! Good day, sir!
So let me know what you thought about all this in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.